Evening, everybody. How are y'all doing tonight? Archangel Michael here with another drunken pirate tech video. Not so much tech this evening, although interestingly enough. After the last video, I put up a brief little questionnaire, if you will, on Facebook and asked people what they wanted to see me do next. Put a couple of options out there, a couple of guns, a hopper, or something, yada yada yada. And then as a caveat, I threw out there, basic like packing techniques if you're traveling. And oddly enough, traveling tips got the most likes. That's what everybody wanted, was to know how I advised them to pack things if they're traveling. So I'm gonna sit here and drink and talk to you about how to put shit in a bag. You called it. As I get started, I want to throw a quick shout out to a lot of people who've been really good help so far. Obviously, all of my teammates on Phantom Regiment and all of my new brothers on the Modern Day Pirates Association Order. Yeah, them. I love all of y'all. Have been fantastic. So, there's a lot of things to go into for this. There's all kinds of tips and tricks for packing, so I'm going to try and move through a lot of points quickly, which means I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time on any one of them. I'm going to break this down. From your best case scenario to your worst case scenario. So, best case scenario when it comes to how to pack your gear to go to your paintball field. Best case scenario is you live at your paintball field. Ta fucking da. Stop watching now. Go away. You're wasting other people's time. The bandwidth is wasted. Your shit's in your living room. Go away. Okay, those wankers are out of the way. Next up on the list. You're going to an event that is local to you. It's a short drive. You're going to go to the event. At the end of the event, you're going to go home and sleep in your own bed. And that's glorious. Those are wonderful evenings, aren't they? Stay late, party, all of that, but you don't have to worry about most of the nonsense. And caveat to that, you're also, let's assume you're going in your own vehicle. Well, in that case, all you really need to worry about doing is making sure that all your stuff is organized enough that you can find it within the confines of your own vehicle. You've got a four-wheel, self-propelled gear bag at that point. Fantastic. There's not really much I can tell you except that, for basic travel, any travel circumstances, one thing you want to do is don't carry your paintball guns out in the open where everyone can see them, because you know they're paintball guns, but your neighbors, your postman, people don't deliver milk anymore, do they? I'm not even old enough to remember people delivering milk. I don't know why I'm going there. Anyways, people don't know what the fuck you're toting. So, if you've got something you can put your markers in, your guns in, markers, the term is going to be interchangeable here, do so. It's just smart. Smart is good. Smart. It cuts down on the annoying screaming, ah! Nonsense. You don't want any of that. So, put your stuff in, yeah. Okay, so, now let's say you're driving to an event and you're going to have to stay at the event when you get there. You're far enough away that you're not going to turn around and drive home at the end of the day. So, you're packing your things. But it's still basically the same scenario if you're still taking your own vehicle and you're not worried about shared space, unless you're driving a tiny vehicle, in which case we'll address tiny vehicle in later stages. Just make sure your stuff is in your car. So on all of these forms, have a checklist. A checklist is important. And don't wait until Thursday night before driving out Friday morning to pack your things. You've got time, so use it all week. If you played the weekend before, Then you've got Monday through whatever day you're leaving to have your stuff clean and lubed. We did that last video. And packed. And yes, don't waste that time. Because you will find that if you wait till Thursday evening to pack all of your gear to leave Friday morning, that things happen. Things like children, wives, jobs, bullshit happens. And then you're scrambling first thing Friday morning, and your mates are on the way with the car and the trailer, and they want you to be ready to go, and you will not be. So, have a plan. Okay, have a checklist. Have a checklist and plan out everything that is part of your necessary gear kit. Plan up your backups, the things that you gotta have. Your secondary hopper, your backup marker. Backups are important to carry if you have the option to carry a fairly large amount of equipment with you. There's an old saying, it's a military saying, 3 is 2 and 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So have backups. Redundancy is important because if you're too far away to turn around and go home for something you forgot, you need not have forgotten it. So, checklist is good for any situation where you're far enough away that you can't just simply turn around, go back, get it, and come back to the same event without really having an impact. Now, up to the next stage of traveling. You're traveling to an event, and you're riding with mates. And now, space is gonna be a tad limited because you've got your gear. Oh, but there's their gear. And they may have a lot of gear. You may have a lot of gear. You ought to figure out a way to condense a lot of gear. Okay. So, as you condense gear, another thing that's important is seeing to it that the gear you're now packing in closer and closer proximity to one another is well protected. So we're going to hit a couple of things in that. Now, first and foremost is the protection of your gear. Because if you arrive at the event and your gear's smashed, you don't have any gear now. It's all toast. It's smashed. So now you're falling onto your redundance before you even take the first minute in the field. That's no good. So, packing up your gear in such a way that it's protected will help prevent that. Now, a lot of your modern, like speedball guns, especially in the upper level of them, they tend to come with their own fitted cases. As an example, the M2 that I use comes in this nice box. And that's convenient. It's a good carry case. It's padded. It's fitted. If the gun that you are using has such a case, take advantage of it. Why would you not? Honestly, it does not really increase the bulk, and it creates organization for all the little bits and bobs and things that make it fantastic. So, take advantage. Now, if you happen to have a marker that does not have its own case at the time of your purchase, there are options out there. Obviously, some gear bags, we'll get into gear bags in a moment, have little built-in sleeves made to hold your gun. If that's the case, fantastic. If you have one of those, it's great. If not, there are other options. Planet Eclipse, throw their name out there because they have a really nice, they call it their gun bag. A lot of people have referred to it as the paintball man purse, and it does look a little feminine, but it doesn't matter because it takes care of your gear, and that's important. They're a little on the pricey side for what you're getting, but they're very well made. If you're looking for perhaps a cheaper option, if you hit up your local sporting goods store, a lot of them will have these basic, they're pistol cases, little plastic padded pistol cases. I think typically they run like $9, $10. They're very cheap, and they're sufficient in size for most of your smaller speedball guns. You know, you're running an Axe, a Mini, You know, any of those smaller guns, your Proto Rise, not Proto, they've changed names now, haven't they? The Die Rise and all of that, they'll fit in one of those. And that'll provide protection for your marker, which will keep it safe on a trip like that. Now, your marker's not the only thing you're carrying, though. You're going to have other things you've got to protect in a trip like that. Namely, the things that protect you. Now, Exalt has got a fantastic line of these cases they've put out that protect all manner of pieces of gear. Other companies have them as well. Some of them are the Exalt ones with a different logo on them. Don't quote me on this. I want to say the Valken ones are going to be the same concept, as are the Inception designs, but it's just a lightweight but hard shell cover for your mask. It keeps it from getting kinked up. And I've had a lot of success with mine. Yeah, it dawns on me as I ramble on about a particular company's gear. I do want to add, as a caveat to this conversation, not a single piece of equipment that I will discuss in this video was provided by a sponsor or given in consideration for positive reviews. Every object that I use has been purchased by myself at retail value for personal use. This is important in the world of filming. I want you to know that this is actually my gear. Moving along. The next thing is the lens case. If you carry spare lenses, and I have bad days. The weather is not what I planned. Somebody hit me with a rock. Yeah, it's happened. So I carry spare lenses because shit happens. So they've got a case specific for that. Little bits like that, they help. Also, your air tank. I have one right here that I carry my air tank in. These guys are absolutely wizard. They fit most of your 68s, or they also fit your rum if you need to safely transport your rum to an event. Sometimes you gotta make sure you get there with the proper tools. Can't be dry. Now, all of those details, the little things, they see to it that the equipment that you're carrying makes it to the event in good shape. Now, those make sense. Those are obvious. Those are made for holding gear. But what else can you do? See, one of the biggest enemies that you have in packing is waste space. I'm going to talk to you about some of the biggest problems with waste space. Inside of your hopper. You have to have a hopper with your gun. And the inside of your hopper is this big bulbous waste of space. And if you're traveling to an event where you're staying overnight, you can take advantage of this space. This is going to be where I start getting into like my personal tips and tricks. To take advantage of this wasted space, take soft items, barrel bags, microfiber cloths, things that would eat up other space, and put them into your waste space. So the inside of your hopper, take a microfiber and fold it up and put it in there. Take a barrel bag, place that in there. The biggest culprit of waste space in a gear bag: paint caddies. If your paint caddy is in your gear bag, this is a massive volume of wasted space if you don't put it to use. Most events that you travel out of state to are going to be field paint events where you have to pick it up there. So you're not taking paint with you. But the nice thing is that most of them have big, wide, accessible openings. Phrasing. And you could put any number of things. You could put a week's worth of socks in there. You could put your undies in there. Fold up a couple of t-shirts in there. All of this being stuff you can take out when you get to your campsite and have your tent up, set next to your cot. But in the meantime, you've cut down on your space. So don't waste space. Paint caddies, biggest culprit. You will waste a ton of space with those. Also, if you're running a typical hopper fed gun, you're gonna have pods. Pods are waste space if you don't put them to use. Find things you can put in there. Once again, smaller objects like your rolls of socks, your microfibers, your airplane bottles of rum. Maybe you need a little more rum. Don't waste it. So, take advantage of the spaces presented by the equipment that you carry. So, now, when it comes to what to carry your gear in, sometimes, depending upon what's going on, that's important. Now, if I'm traveling in an enclosed vehicle, all of my stuff's in the back of a van, or it's somebody's SUV, or if I'm traveling my own vehicle and I've got control over the conditions, I take advantage of the, made for paintball big gear bags. I carry some pretty big equipment, so the larger ended up being the better for me. But they make them in a wide range of sizes, a wide range of companies do them. They all have their merits and flaws, and I'm not really going to sit here and debate who makes a good or a bad one. I will say I am pleased with this Planet Eclipse bag that I carry. It may be oversized for some people's purposes. It works for mine. The Defender's a bitch. It eats up a lot of space. So, picking one of those are good in a controlled environment along those lines. But if you're traveling a good long distance and you're with a big team and all of your gear is getting hurled into, say, somebody's open trailer, exposed to the elements, you don't know what you're passing through, there are a couple of options out there for cases that not made for paintball. If you go to a lot of your hardware stores, there will be a variety of these rolling personal equipment sized job boxes. I've got an example right here that I take advantage of. This guy is a big rolling toolkit made by Husky. It's a store brand for, I believe, Home Depot. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's Home Depot or Lowe's. It's one of the two. I'm not 100% there. But it's relatively inexpensive. They're I think this one was $40. And you can stand on it. You can stack and strap them together. There's a fairly large amount of space on the inside of them. And you can get a little creative and you can partition it out and make it very useful for paintball. And they're watertight, so if the trailer gets rained on while you're traveling, your gear is going to be fine. Some of them, like this particular one that I have, has a rubberized port for an extension cord, so I can, if I have access to power where I'm going, if I find a convenient place to set up my pop-up and gear station, I can plug in and I can have things charged, like my radios and whatever I need. You may not be able to take advantage of that. If you can, it's a great thing to have. So, now, all of this for the last bit has been rambling on about whether or not you're traveling via vehicle. If you're wheeled car, you're in a car or a truck or something, you're rolling. So your gear bag limitations are really determined heavily by what sort of gear everyone else is carrying and how many people you've got crammed in. But you do want to try and condense a little at that point. When you make your checklist, you try and pick the essentials that you do need, but you don't carry a lot of additional extras that you don't have to have. So, like for instance, I'm a multi-format player. I like speedball, I like woodsball, I like mag-fed, I like a wide range. But if I'm going to an event that is traditionally an open, primarily an open format, traditional scenario, I may not pack my stock class pump. I may not bring the mag-fed if I'm gonna be running the Defender primarily as a heavy gunner, or whatever your key setup is. Focus on that, but don't bring the kitchen sink because you may not have space for it. Do have some redundancy, because if you have no redundancy at all, then you're asking for problems. But don't have tertiaries and so on and so forth. Let's get into the final detail. The final detail is you are flying to an event. This is, for paintball, kind of a worst case scenario. Flying to a paintball event limits you as much as is possible to a paintball event. You're going to have to find a way to pack all of your gear into a space allotment allowed to you by your airline and stay underweight. So, first and foremost thing is, how long are you going to be gone? What is the minimum in personals that you can manage that distance with? While taking into account, there are certain things that you should keep extra of. If you're going to be playing paintball, the weather can often turn to shit in a heartbeat. So redundant clothing is useful, especially if it's a 2-day event that plans to rain both days. Sometimes it's important to have more than one set of footgear. I found that out at Dread Legends. I absolutely drenched my boots in the swamp the first day, and I ended up having to build a contraption with hair dryers to try and dry them out because I only had one set of footwear, and that was no good. No. I mean, it worked. Pirate teched that shit up and made a couple of hair dryers give me some dry boots for the next day, but it would have been really good if I'd had a second set of boots. I didn't. Keep that in mind. But when it comes to travel, you've got to find a way to divide up things between the bag you have to check, and you will have to check a bag because there are certain things you just cannot carry on, and paintball guns are one of them. Don't even try. I have heard of one or two of my friends in the world of paintball managing to carry on a paintball marker, and bully for them, but no, don't try it. Check a bag. Pay the check bag fee. But try to come up under the mark so you don't have to pay extra, because an overweight bag fee may be the difference between 2 and 3 cases of paint on that first day of play. So pack light. At this point, you really do need to cut it down to what do I need to play. Your extras, drop your tertiary, carry just a single backup of things. Some things, not quite as necessary. You should know if your regulator is a bad point, so your tank should be good if you bring a tank out there. Speaking of tank, something that you also need to know to do when you travel, when you fly, to carry an air tank with you, you must remove the regulator. Now, this one was only hand tightened in. You may need a small tool to do that. That can be a little bit more difficult. There are some dedicated tools made for it. Ninja has one for their regulator. Engler Customs, Eric Engler, has tools available, I do believe, for a couple of different regulators. These are worth getting, because if you're gonna fly, then you want to be able to take these things off properly, so that they're gonna make it to the event intact with you. Now, I'm going to point out a little caveat when I'm going to reach back to a piece of equipment I spoke about earlier, and that is the Exalt barrel cases, or not Exalt barrel cases, the Exalt mask cases, or lens cases. They have this little zippered pouch on the top of them that is fantastic for more rum. It's fantastic for regulators. Almost like it was made for it. And you can tuck that guy in there and keep it safe if you're traveling with a tank that has had its regulator removed. How did you get in there? I didn't do that one. That I remember. Also, if flying, pyrotechnics are a no-no. Leave your sports smoke, leave your Enola Gay, leave all of those at home. Do not attempt to put that in any of your bags, carry-on or checked. No pyrotechnics. I think really the real bare bones necessities of traveling and paintball, that kind of covers the highlights. Take advantage of any waste space that your gear presents. Condense as much as possible. Plan ahead and create a checklist. And never forget the rum. You have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you all later.